as you know, we've rolled this out in Q2 of earlier this year with our partnership and rolling out payment optimization and virtual cards. And obviously there are companies that have adopted that and are rolling that out. There are some companies that are hesitant for one reason or another. You know, if the goal is to reduce costs and create efficiency and frankly get a rebate income, what do you think? What do you see as the primary reasons companies are slow to potentially adopt that? And the second question would be, where do you tell companies to start? You had talked about it being a small footprint and a relatively
Sure.
easy to deploy. What advice would you give companies?
Yeah, it's really interesting. My sales team gets tired of hearing me say this, but I have a saying, I'll call it an Ericism for lack of a better term. Change happens when the pain of the status quo exceeds the pain of change. I'll say it again, change happens when the pain of the status quo exceeds the pain of change. Well,
Sure.
the status quo right now is untenable. So we have the help. In this case, unfortunately, it's one of the silver linings for a business like ours of the demands of the remote work environment. So that issue itself is somewhat assisted by the necessity of making a change. So it's been quite interesting. But prior to that, prior to the pandemic, I think really it comes down, Chris, to education. A lot of what we do, this is still a relatively early market in the US in terms of making payment and distributing accounts payable payments electronically. In Europe, there's no such thing as a business-to-business check. There's no such thing as paying by cash. But here in the US,
behind the times.
it's like we're 10 years behind the times, and it's happening quickly. We're waking up, but companies still need to be educated. What is it? Why is it valuable? How big of an impact is it going to have on my business? What kind of business process change does it have? Does it potentially represent? And what's in it for me? What's the value proposition? And what does it do to my suppliers to change the form of payment? So I think it really comes down to, in a normal world, education. We're still explaining what is payments automation rather than why us or why another solution.
If you have one thing to say to people who are still hesitant about digitizing their payments, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I would say don't make that judgment until you've had someone educate you on the value proposition. I've mentioned it now 3 or 4 times in our conversation, Chris. I think change happens when the pain of the status quo exceeds the pain of change. And I don't mean that we're going to go around causing pain, but I do intend that we would go around and educate to the point where if someone knew the value proposition that exists in the combination of what we do, payments automation plus invoice automation equals AP automation, full AP automation, you would have a very interesting value proposition to consider. So my ask would be to let us come in, let us talk to you, let us do a vendor match, let us identify what the value proposition can be. You tell us where you need help, whether it's in income or in free cash flow or working capital, and let us structure a proposal. It costs nothing. Not only does it cost nothing to do the analysis, it costs nothing to implement, as this is a completely supplier pay model out of interchange. So just let us educate you. If you say, not for me, not now, it's not going to fit into my priority, that's fine, but at least you'll know, at least it'll be in the stack.